Welcome back to Fine Art Diary, and in this tutorial we are going to see how to paint a deep forest landscape with waterfall in acrylic, and you will be able to follow each and every steps. So many of you are sending me your paintings what you have done from the Fine Art Diary tutorials. I am very happy to see those paintings. You also can send me your paintings to this Insta Messenger. Now let's get started. So these are the colors I am going to use today: titanium white, cad yellow medium, yellow ochre, crimson, deep magenta, brilliant purple, ultramarine blue, light blue permanent, viridian, raw umber and Payne's grey. Now let's jump into the painting. First of all, we'll start with the blocking of the background, and for that I am taking ultramarine blue, raw umber, brilliant purple and yellow ochre mixed with titanium white. The goal is to make a cool grey color. And let's start painting. You can see in the canvas itself we are getting the harmony of blues, of yellows, of purples, and after mixing together it is creating a kind of grey color. Now let's make the mixture towards the green, and for that I am mixing viridian, both of my blues and Payne's grey, and you can see the mixture is towards the green, and let's paint. Now let's add deep magenta and Payne's grey to make the mixture a little more darker, because we are going to do the blocking of the foreground. The foreground has to be a little more darker because the light is coming from the background, so the foreground will be much more darker than the midground and the background. Now I will go back to the background, so adding a little more titanium white to make the mixture lighter. And you can see still the mixture is kind of grey. Once again, let's mix the dark for the right hand side. So I'm mixing raw umber, ultramarine blue, Payne's grey with the same mixture. Now it's time to do the blocking of the right hand side of the canvas. Now let's create the shadow shapes of the background forest, and for this, with the same mixture, I am adding viridian, Payne's grey, yellow ochre, a little bit of crimson and brilliant purple. Now since the beginning you have seen me I am mixing my colors very spontaneously, as if it is automated. So how that can be done? For that, I have made a course on the core basics and I'm going to launch it very soon. So stay tuned in my channel and I will let you know when it is published. In the meantime, if you are interested to learn certain topics, you can write down in the comment box. I will try to incorporate those also in the course. I'm sure it is going to be very helpful for you. In this particular area, I have added little more cobalt blue to make the midground little more cooler. Now let's do the blocking of some background rocks, and for that I am using brilliant purple and titanium white. I am adding these colors with the previous mixture only. Let's give a couple of brush strokes in this area and that will separate the background with the foreground. So basically I am working with the background rocks. Let's add some yellow accents in this area and that will give a sense of the local color of the rocks. Now let's mix titanium white to the same mixture to make it a little bit bright. Now let's give the suggestion of the midground. The side planes of the rocks in the midground getting the light. So I'm giving the impression of those lighter planes. Now it's time to add some tree branches. So for that I am taking viridian, cobalt blue, yellow ochre, brilliant purple and titanium white. So in this I am going to create the leafy texture by using the brush tip. It has to be very random and spontaneous. Let's make the mixture more chromatic by using viridian, cad yellow medium and titanium white. I am going to do the same, but this time the paint is a little bit brighter. Adding a little more cadmium yellow just to create more variation. You can see from blue to yellow I am creating variation of the tree branches. So I will continue this process towards the midground also. That's alright, now let's increase the darks of the foreground, and for that I'm using paints grey, viridian, deep magenta and brilliant purple. Also a touch of crimson. Now let's increase the dark of the foreground layer. Now you can distinguish the foreground and the background layer. In this particular area, I am giving the suggestion of some hanging branches and roots, and this is going to be the basic blocking for that. So most of the time we are going to start with the darks. Now I have switched to a comparatively smaller brush. Now let's paint the foreground leafy patterns once again, and for this I am using the same mixture previously I was using. Over here I am just showing some overlapping of some leafy branches. Going back to my darker mixture, and let's add some more hanging roots. Now it's time to paint some more leaves. Once again, let's go back to the darks, and this time I'm going to increase the darkness of the midground. And why it is important in this area? Because when the light will fall in this area, it is going to create contrast and it is going to look interesting. So here you can see I am finding all the shadow shapes. And this is what we had to do back and forth, working with the shadow shapes, then the midtones, then the highlights, then coming back to shadow shapes, then again midtone, and again the highlights. So like that we had to work back and forth. Now coming back to the tree branches, and previously some of the areas I covered with my dark mixture, so let's get back those areas once again. That's alright, now let's work for the foreground rocks. And for this, in my dark mixture only, I am adding my blues, the titanium white and raw umber, and getting a kind of mid-tone grey color. Let's add some very spontaneous and random brush strokes. I think we also can add some warm local colors in this area, kind of the same grey color but warm, and I have mixed, you can see, cad yellow medium, yellow ochre and crimson lake with the same grey. That's fine. Let's go back to our grey mixture. I'm making it a little bit lighter by adding titanium white and brilliant purple. These are all natural shapes, so the brush strokes can be very random. That's fine. Now let's go back to the darks once again. And for this I am using Payne's Grey, Raw Umber and Ultramarine Blue. Now re-establishing some of the dark patterns. Previously, I was discussing the same. We have to work back and forth from dark to light and once again from light to dark. Let's work with the background rocks also, and for that I am using the previously mixed grey color. Making the color a little more lighter by adding titanium white, ultramarine blue, paints grey, and a touch of yellow ochre to neutralize it a little bit. It could be little more darker. Now let's paint the path of the waterfall. And you also can see with this particular value, I am separating the foreground and the background and actually painting the path of the waterfall. Now let's refine the shape of the background rocks, and for that I am using brilliant purple, yellow ochre, cobalt blue, titanium white and a touch of crimson. Now let's refine the shape of the rocks. You can see I am establishing some bigger shapes. I am just trying to find the light and shadow patterns. Now in the midground also I am finding the planes which are getting the lights. Now these planes are coming forward, so it has to be a little more chromatic. So in the same mixture I am adding viridian and my yellows and making it a little bit greenish. I am also doing the block-in of some foreground stones, and it is coming forward, you can see, towards the bottom of the canvas. Still the brush strokes are very loose. Alright, now let's make a dark mixture by using raw umber, deep magenta, a little bit of yellow ochre and cobalt blue. And this time I am going to break the rocky shapes even more. You can see I am finding the shadow shapes in the smaller areas now. We also can make it a little bit harmonious by adding the local color. So I am mixing yellow ochre and crimson lake with the same mixture, and you can see we are getting a nice brown, and let's add some local color to it. Once again coming back to the darks and re-establishing it. It will increase the contrast a little bit and will separate it from the background. Now I will give some suggestion of greens also in the darks. These rocks will be covered by the moss, so green will give the suggestion of that. Going back to the green mixture, and this time we have to work for the lighter side of it. And in this you can see I have used titanium white and cad yellow medium to make it brighter. Now let's make the lighter planes prominent. So I will not cover everything, I will lose the local colors. So here and there I am just touching with the greens. That's alright, now let's concentrate on the background. So far the background rocks are looking like the sky is seen through. We just have to make it volumetric with its local color and increasing the darks. So first of all I am going to work with the darks. For this I have mixed paints grey, raw umber, deep magenta and my blues. Also mixing titanium white to make it a little bit brighter. Working with the dark areas. You can see I am defining the contour of the foreground also. The shapes I already painted previously, I am just exaggerating those shapes. Darks are fine. Now also add some local colors to it. And for this, I'm using yellow ochre, crimson lake, cobalt blue, cad yellow medium, and a touch of titanium white. So some of the areas I am going to give the suggestion of the local color. Some areas of the foreground is also getting indirect light, so I'm just giving the suggestion of that. Now let's make the mixture a little more brighter. So for that I am using cad yellow medium and titanium white. And this time I am going to exaggerate some of the highlights. Similarly, I am also going to give some green accents. So with my previously mixed mixture, I am just adding a little bit viridian, and you can see we got a desaturated green color. Now giving some suggestion of the greens. Now once again I will go back to the hanging leaves, and for that I am using cad yellow medium, viridian yellow ochre, and a touch of titanium white. What I think is, before using the highlight, we should also add a layer of midtone for the distant trees. So for this I am using viridian, cobalt blue, and my yellows, and you can see now the value is a kind of mid-tone. That's fine. Now let's add some highlights also. So in the background also, some leaves are getting direct sunlight and becoming that bright. Now let's come to the foreground, and once again I am going to exaggerate the hanging roots. So using my dark mixture once again, and let's paint. That's alright. Now once again I am going back to the highlights of the leaves, and this time it will be the mid-ground branches. That's alright. Now let's paint the highlights of the moss in the mid-ground rocks. Now I am going towards the detailing and trying to find smaller shapes this time. That's alright. Now for these stones also we have to do the same. That's fine. The moss light areas are done. Now for the rocks also we have to do the same. So for the rocks we have mixed the color previously. I'm just adding titanium white to it. And we are getting the tint of the same color. Similarly in this also I am going to give some detailed strokes. So I am assuming and painting those planes which are facing towards the light. Okay, now it's time to paint the waterfall. And for this I am taking titanium white, cobalt blue and a touch of viridian. This time the mixture is quite bright, but we have to take care it should not be raw white. Over here, first of all, I am painting the flat planes and then later on I will come back and will paint the flow of the vertical planes. In this particular case, the shapes and the brush strokes both are equally important. So I am taking care of the direction of my brush strokes. Now painting the vertical flow. Now let's come towards the bottom of the painting and I'm going to use the same color for this also. Let's continue the water flow. You can notice one thing in this area. I am maintaining the contour of the foreground rocks and how it is getting visible against the bright color of the water. It is coming towards the shadow, so making the mixture a little more darker. Now it's time to paint the highlights of the waterfall, and for this I am using titanium white with a touch of cad yellow medium. Why cad yellow medium? Because the direct sunlight is hitting those areas and that has to be a little bit warm. Only titanium white is considered as a cool color. That's looking fine. Now let's continue the same thing towards the bottom. I'm trying to depict those areas where the light is directly hitting. Now let's take a smaller brush and add some detailing to it. I'm just giving the suggestion of the direction of the water flow. Now in the shadow side also we have to do the same. So going back to our mid-tone and let's give some hints of the water splashes. That's fine. Now it's time to paint some water droplets. So taking the same mixture of titanium white and cad yellow medium and let's paint some droplets. That's alright, now let's work for the foreground. And this time I am going to paint some suggestion of the leaves. I am mixing viridian, cad yellow medium, cobalt blue, yellow ochre and a touch of titanium white. This is a mid-value green I have mixed. Once again, some very random brush strokes. I am mixing cad yellow medium with the same mixture and making it a little bit lighter so that we can paint the highlight. We are towards the end of the painting and let's paint the light rays. I'm using a masking tape over here and you can see I'm giving the dry brush strokes in this area. From the direction the light is coming, I'm using the same direction. I'm finding the gaps between those hanging roots. Let's use one more gap. The back side of these roots also will be illuminated. So I'm just trying to create that illusion over here. Alright, we are done with this painting and here are some close-up shots. Hope you enjoyed today's session. And just to remind you once again that I am going to launch my new course. So any topic you want me to include in that particular course, please write down in the comment box. It will be really appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe the channel because many more painting video tutorials are coming in future. Thank you very much for watching.